Hello, fellow Cybernaut. Welcome back to Humanity Unleashed. If you're new here, in this channel we cover the things of the body, the mind, and the soul, with no gimmicks, clickbait, or time wasted. In very practical terms, we discuss valuable life insights so that you can take your lessons and go ahead applying them straight away in your day. Unleash your humanity and break free, like it's your prerogative to do. So, in this precise spirit, today let me give you a short introduction to the theme of Dharma. People these days talk about purpose, and even though this expression has been a bit abused and misused in recent times, I think it still conveys some valuable sense for us to discuss and pursue. The idea I get is that when people talk about finding purpose, they really mean finding one's unique inspired path, where everything is aligned and becomes so easy, life makes sense all of a sudden. Which, as we will find out, is not necessarily the meaning of Dharma, but I would say it's highly desirable. Often we find ourselves battling with internal conflict, and if we're fighting against ourselves, it's very hard to get things done, to follow your dream. Things can get overwhelming and frustrating in the meantime. But there is much more to know about this concept than what is usually conveyed. That's what we're doing here today. So let us dissect this concept in a way I think might be of value for you, so you can align as fast as possible and tap into your dream to bring about what is your unique expression, the only thing that can really fulfill you, and really what the world needs from you. So let us look at the concept of Dharma, that many people see as an interchangeable concept with the more Western idea of purpose. The Hindus have used this concept for thousands of years, so let us drink from this well of knowledge and get some clarity on what it means, in practical terms for our life, of course. So a lot of people understand Dharma as somehow the role that is predestined for you and that you have to find and then follow. But this can get a bit abstract and hard to pinpoint, especially for those of us who have a very eclectic range of interests. We love the sun and the moon. Which is our passion? Which is the right way? And which should we focus on? How do I know that I'm on the right path? Is my Dharma to do this or that? So the purpose of this episode is exactly to address and hopefully alleviate some of these confusions. Watch until the very end if you care about living a meaningful life. So let's start by looking at some possible translations. I googled it and it said, quote, Dharma, a Sanskrit term, is a multifaceted concept with no single direct translation. It generally refers to duty, righteousness, law, and the natural order of things. It encompasses the idea of living in accordance with one's individual and universal responsibilities, upholding cosmic universal order and striving for truth and righteousness. End of quote. So as you see, another perspective already opens up. We see what they meant in Sanskrit, even though there is no direct translation. Is that Dharma is not necessarily only about a specific role that we have to find, and then everything will be easy, but more of a kind of a conduct that we have to follow so that everything falls in place and we find the so praised meaning in life. But let us continue breaking down the rest of the definition Google is giving us. Quote, Dharma refers to duty and righteous conduct. It refers to an individual's moral obligations and duties, which can vary based on their social role, stage of life, and other factors. End of quote. So you see, it's not only about you finding your Dharma and life being suddenly shaped, but it's that you shape your life through the years, and in that practice, you are in your Dharma. So if you're a civil engineer, for example, part of your duty is to build safe and functional infrastructures. If you're a doctor, your duty is to serve for health. If you're a father, your duties are to be a good father. If you're a shoemaker, the same logic applies, etc., etc. So depending on what you do, whatever it is, Dharma is to do it well, to fulfill your duties in your role. And this brings not only meaning, but dignity into your life. On its own, that's already living in Dharma. We continue. Quote, Dharma also refers to cosmic law and order. It describes the fundamental principles that govern the universe and maintain its equilibrium. Meaning, if everyone fulfills their roles, the universe will continue working as it should. And this is not about being right or wrong. For example, the role of the black hole is perhaps a destructive one, according to our perspective. The role of the shark is to kill with no mercy, as well as it is the role of the assassin, perhaps. And so you ask, is it okay to be moral? Is there no morality in nature? Good question. As I understand it, in my current state of ignorance, of course, this will have to do with the quality of your being, as Nietzsche said. If you know better not to kill, then you cannot kill, because that's not your role. Because you are endowed with the precise capacities to fulfill your own Dharma, and you have the capacity to know better. To do less than that, or in this case, being less good, because we're talking about quality of being and not quantity of doing. So not to do less, but to be less good than you can be, is not to fulfill your Dharma. That's why Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Because for people to do evil is because they're ignorant of the consequences of it. If they knew better, they automatically wouldn't do it, would they? So in your own life, think about this. What is your quality? What are your values? What is being good to you? And do it as best as you can. If most people in the room are okay with, for example, seeing someone being abused, maybe you're not. And you have to act on it because you know better. And you can't be less than what it is your capacity. Because that's your role, and fulfilling your nature is what cosmic law and order is. Is it making sense so far? I hope so. Let's continue. Quote, Dharma also refers to truth and righteousness. It emphasizes living in accordance with truth and moral principles, promoting ethical behavior and avoiding harmful actions. So here we see a convergence between Dharma and what we normally think as karma, a concept that we normally relate to the promotion of ethical behavior and the avoidance of harmful actions. And this is where a lot of us get confused, and rightly so, because we were taught to be nice, whereas we look around and we live in a world of survival and power, where being eats being, and we're cutting human shit to get ahead in life. So how does this righteousness, ethical behavior, and avoiding harmful actions apply? How does this apply to life? Is this just a story that we've been told? Because we see these immoral actions, quote unquote, working, at least apparently. We don't necessarily see any immediate consequence for those actions that are outside of morality, do we? And some people will say that, the consequence might come in another incarnation, but we can't really know, can we? And quite the opposite happens. We see them, quote unquote, getting away and succeeding according to our animal instincts and societal parameters that were given to us. Meaning they get resources, they get status, etc. They get away with it, which all adds to the confusion and makes us doubt of the validity of these explanations, even of the validity and value of morality itself. So after years of study and practice of trying to be just that, moral and avoiding harmful actions, let me offer you some relief and clarity in this matter. It goes like this. Do you believe in consequence? Action, reaction? Well, this is a thing, a very tangible universal law that we can count on. And no one can get away from it. If people act in a certain way, the outcome, as well as the intention of that action, has no option but to bounce back to it, like a cosmic basketball. And these are tangible examples that we can understand more objectively, like a ball bouncing off the ground, right? But the same applies to more abstract actions and consequences. Let me explain. If someone's a liar and dishonest with people, they will not attract honesty and real people into their life. Pay attention. It won't even be part of their reality because that's not who they are. They won't even see that. They will attract fake and deceiving people and experiences. If they value money above everything, they're probably going to get it, and it's okay. There's no judgment on that. But the consequence is that they will be stuck in a materialistic loop, preventing them from ascending to other realms of existence, self-realization, understanding, because they legitimize that societal construct of money and power and oppression over others and inequality in detriment of other things, of other values. It's like ascension is a balloon wanting to go up, and those materialistic attachments are weighing us down, keeping us from flying. The logic is like this. How can you set free from the prison if you have the rules and the constructs of this jail in such high regard? You can't. And this is what the Hindus and the Buddhists believe will keep you stuck in samsara. The attachment to the illusions of this realm, this prison. You're not going to set free if you're so attached to the rules of the prison. Does it make sense? They're here to test you. It's this attachment that perpetuates the cycle of suffering and impermanence until you wake up from the dream and realize your true power, like Neo in the Matrix. Until you break free, what they call moksha, the ultimate liberation. And we are told all our lives and end up actually believing all the lies of the illusion of the Maya. They get programmed into our brainwashed subconscious. And we end up basing all our understanding of life in arguments that don't hold much ground when given some deep thought or after a rich life experience. Beliefs that tells us that money, status, power, resources, and so on are some high achievement. And it's hard to go beyond that simplistic understanding of life because that's what we hear from all the unevolved people around us ever since we were little. But then we grow up, and after giving it some honest thought, we see that after all, it doesn't really add up. The common sense does not make sense. We start questioning if these are in fact high values to pursue at all. We start wondering that it might be just some cultural value imposed on us with no real empirical universal benefit. Just like some cultures eat pasta and others rice. And perhaps we shouldn't even eat any of those. And if we're not intellectually lazy and we get really honest, we might come to the hypothesis that these are some very low values to pursue when considering the dimension and complexity of this great experiment of life. How valuable is financial wealth in a world of fake money, where cheaters are rewarded? How valuable is status among dishonorable people when compared to other values? And I'll name a few because they are so out of fashion that we might not even remember them. They're forgotten. Values like heroism, originality, bravery, going towards the uncertain, breaking new horizons because you're called to it, dignity, humanity, for God's sake. This is, after all, what progress is all about. Values like authenticity, the trait of being natural, that is so out of use in this artificial world that now people go to great lengths to find it in themselves again. The irony. Values like true love, fraternity, compassion, abdicating of one's short-sighted interests for the promotion of the greater good in the long run of this great masterpiece. Working not only for ourselves, but for the development of society, for the alleviation of human suffering, the love for nature, etc. These values resonate with every single one of us, so why don't we hear them anymore? And this is where internal conflict arises again. These two worlds might be antagonistic, because the value of status might come at the expense of some other of these values, such as being compassionate and honest. So which values should we pursue? Here's your cue. Of these values, what are the ones that can really fulfill you? And what are the ones that can only disguise the emptiness caused by all the suffering? You know what I'm talking about. That grief of not being enough, of being misunderstood, judged, misloved, not respected, not seen. You want money, power, status, all those things, just to show all those that hurt you, that belittled you, that you are worth it, isn't it? To have access to all the things that were denied to you. It's not for the money itself. It's for what you believe money will get you. That love, that admiration, that support. So I would say you might as well cut the middleman and dedicate yourself just to that, to self-love, self-respect, self-admiration. Not a fake one, but a true one based on how honorable you are. That's how you love yourself. That's how you fulfill yourself. You know that if you follow greed, revenge, power over others, you know you'll never get fulfilled. The low pleasures are never enough, are they? And I know it's hard to make sense of all this because of all the noise, because society, in its sickened state, does not recognize and downplays these higher values. But you know better, because we're in this era that is still medieval in many ways, unfortunately. But we're growing, we're developing. It's getting better and better, like you. So we have to bring the noise down so we can listen to the masterpiece. Let me offer you some other perspective to hopefully soothe this confusion that was planted in our minds. Another conflict we find is that we grow up in a society that is materialistic in two ways. Not only does it worship material things, money, status, hard power, but that in its very ontology also believes only in what can be measured, what can be seen, what can be proven. That's the mindset we're raised in. Everything that can't be weighed or bought is treated like it doesn't matter or it doesn't exist. Well, now we're all figuring out that life has deeper values, deeper layers, meaning, purpose, metaphysics, beauty, magic. And when we start sensing that, when we feel there is more to life than this shallow surface, it's hard to make sense of all this and still get along with everything else. It's society. Because we've been trained in a system that doesn't even have a practical language or tools to help us explore these things. That's why these rants can take a bit to unfold, even though I do my best to keep it on point. We're raised in a world that bows to price tags and microscopes. So when the soul goes looking for treasures without barcodes or proof, it's no wonder many feel lost. But that's why we're here, to help each other climb out of that hole, fellow cybernaut. So we can free humanity. Make no mistake. So continuing with just this last point. We're told that evolution favors the strongest, the most adaptable, etc. That life is meaningless and that we're just some evolved bacteria with the same aspirations as ants or a chicken. That is, to sustain our lives, protect ourselves, produce offspring, and die. To be done. And when we look into the animal world, it kind of makes sense. It seems that the snake does not care, it's just ruthless. It has no morals. But we forget that the snake does not have a limbic system, right? It's part of the brain that lets us mammals feel complex emotions, like affection, jealousy, or excitement. No creature feels like we do. We're the champions of the limbic world, designed to love, to rage, mourn, dream. This is our superpower. This is what makes us great. And that's what we should live for. That's why the snake was never able to build incredible civilizations like we humans did. It might thrive in the desert, but in the oceanic tides of understanding and feeling the cosmos, we're superheroes. That's why the snake can never make a movie or watch a movie and be excited or touched by it. But we can. We're empathic beings. So we shouldn't compare us to snakes and sharks because we know better. We have another ability to feel. There's no words to explain this very well, but you know how it does feel. The same way we perhaps shouldn't compare ourselves to the billionaires or dictators of this world, regardless of how wealthy and powerful they are. We will never do the things that they had to do to get to their places, will we? Because we know better. And so we come full circle in this long explanation that I thought was necessary. We are in our Dharma when we fulfill what is our best version of how to be, not someone else's. That's it. What's inside of you needs to come out, and living by the values and limits of other beings is negating your very own existence. So you don't have to be nice. You just have to be good, righteous, brave, fair, assertive, unbiased, if you're up to the task, because you know better, and you are better. Don't be distracted from your best just because our societies are ruled by ruthless people that don't know better. And these tremendously high values of altruism are often portrayed as weakness. Because if you have that quality in you, you know that it's not weakness. You know better. You don't feel weak because you're conscious. On the contrary. We are sensitive beings, so let us use our superpowers. Even in cosmic terms around this universe, this might be a really rare condition of life, some higher state of understanding that was granted to us somehow, and that other beings out there admire us for having. And so we have to honor our capabilities. We have to trust what we know. We stroll ahead with quiet confidence to go beyond. While there is no single agreed upon definition of when humanity truly began, some people say that the beginning of humanity was the moment where a member of the group stayed behind to help another one. And this is for me a very compelling concept, that what defines us as humans is really this capacity of altruistic behavior. So value it if you can, if it's in your capacity. If not, it's also okay. We're all learning here. But for those of us that understand, we can't be less than that. It's our prerogative to go ahead and be up to the level of our greatness. That's Dharma. As to different interpretations, Dharma has slightly different meanings within Hinduism, Buddhism, and other Dharmic traditions. But the core idea of upholding order and living righteously remains consistent. And about the more Western concept of purpose, there's also something very real about your unique role in life. There's in fact something that you are inclined to bring about in this life, like no one else is. A specific role you are to play in this great masterpiece. So after this conversation, don't be discouraged to try and find what that is. We will cover that aspect in many other talks. Don't look at it like you have to necessarily fit into a specific profession or a cultural category of your society in this point in time. It might be something entirely new. Because for some of us, it's easy to fit in. For others, it's hard. Perhaps because their role is precisely one of disruption. So don't be shy to act on what you feel is right. It's your different perspective that makes you special. And even though it might be hard, the outcome of following through is so much more rewarding. So today I just wanted to share with you this conceptualization that has helped me make better decisions, to bring meaning and a better sense of my place in the world. I hope it helps you too. If it did, support the channel right back. Show some love in the form of a like. If you think this could help someone else, go ahead and share it. That's how we rise, stronger, together. If you like this kind of content, by all means, do subscribe. It truly helps, as you know. And we have lots of practical life insights coming up. Become part of this movement of bringing back the humane into humanity. And to remember from this discussion, Dharma is a guide for living a meaningful and purposeful life. It's aligning oneself with a natural order and striving for both personal and universal well-being. Align both and live well. Live your Dharma. Live your best. Feel in the shoes of your best self. Thank you for watching and for all the support. Until the next episode of Humanity Unleashed, protect your bliss. Stay human. Stay free.